What's up, Sand Martians? This episode is going to be a bit different because it very well might be the last. When I started this podcast over a year ago, I promised myself two things. One, I wouldn't let this project interfere with my academics or my future career. And two, I wouldn't allow doing this show to become a chore or a burden. I want this show to be fun for me and for my listeners. And thankfully, I am yet to break either of those promises to myself. When I set out to make Season 3, I tried to remain as flexible as possible. I knew people were going to reschedule or even cancel, and so I always prepared for changing scenarios. However, I made the rookie mistake of not preparing for a global pandemic when I made this season's schedule, and as you all know, COVID-19 has flipped everyone's life upside down, including mine. I've had to return home, away from San Marcos, for the foreseeable future. And even if I were to stay, Tech State has closed down most of the campus, which would make recording incredibly difficult. And when this is all over, and everything goes back to normal, which it will, I will have already begun my senior year here at Texas State. And with that comes a lot of important decisions that need to be made. I will be taking on more work than any other previous semester this fall, finishing my second year of my 2-year term in student government, and making preparations for graduate school. And while I don't think it would be impossible for the Sam Mo show to go on, I feel like if I were to continue the podcast this fall, I would likely be breaking my only 2 promises I made to myself. The show would likely take up what little time it would have available, and it would certainly become more of a burden than a creative outlet for me. And while I've always had fun recording and editing the weekly episodes, I would hate for this podcast to no longer be an escape for me, as I feel it would if I were to continue. Now with that said, I don't want this to be a somber occasion. This creative endeavor has been nothing but a success in my eyes. I've had so much fun interviewing my amazing weekly guests and recording these 30 episodes, spanning over 32 hours of content. You could literally start listening to episode 1 at midnight, and you would not be done with episode 30 until 8 a.m. of the next day. And besides the sheer amount of content within the podcast, the Sam Mo Show has afforded me so many great experiences I wouldn't have had otherwise. I got to interview bands, the Bubble Guy, and hell, I even got a story about the podcast published in the University Star. I am so proud of this. And I couldn't have done it without the help of so many great people along the way. I want to take a minute to thank Jet Speed for helping me make the seasonal announcement videos that always blow up on Twitter. I want to thank all the fantastic talent I featured on the show, M80, 70 Flat, Commons, and of course Quentin Ford, who made the intro and outro for the show. It has been an absolute honor to feature your music and your art on my podcast. And of course, I would be nowhere without all of those who have tuned in every week and listened to the podcast. I do it all for you guys. And while this may be the end for the show, this is definitely not the end of my creative endeavors. I love to create. I especially love to create things for others to enjoy. I don't know what my next endeavor will be, but knowing myself, it will probably involve my opinion in some way, shape, or form. And if I could give any advice to any of you guys out there who are thinking about starting your own YouTube channel, your own podcast, your own art account, whatever it might be, do it. Because if there's one thing that this virus, I think, has taught me, is that we take a lot of things that we consider to be parts of daily life for granted. And you never know when your last day is going to be. Don't spend the finite amount of time that we have in this life being apprehensive about the things you love. Go out there, be yourself, be unapologetically yourself, and create what you love. And other people will love it too, I'm telling you. Don't be afraid of what other people are going to think. If you love what you make, others will surely follow in your footsteps, I promise. And these are trying times, especially because there is no clear light at the end of the tunnel right now. But I know that you can get through this. And we all can, and we all will. And I'll wrap things up with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Albert Camus. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me, there lay an invincible summer. Thank you all so much for letting me into your earbuds, your car's sound system, and whatever else you've listened to this podcast on. It has been an honor and a privilege to have been your host with the Sand Most. This has been Jacob Cleveland, signing off.